here. Actually, this time around in a bagel restaurant over here to share it over. Obviously, I was in a coffee shop, another at Shemesh yesterday, but let's continue this awesome series at the moment. Making fantastic. Mazal Tov, we are on the 80th video already. Number 80. What is 80, friends? The gematria of 80 is the letter K in Hebrew over here. Let me just get it in position over here, and we very much are going to start this over here. A bit of Yaakov Shweki music in the background to spice things up. This is what we're learning, friends. This is what it's all about. Second edition of the Yalkut Yosef. So we were talking about salting meat in the last installment over here. And we're talking about handling sand also, I believe, just recently. Now, it's actually interesting, very interesting topic. We are now going to be talking about children playing in sand. Friends, we're in Siman 308, we're dealing about the laws of Muksa, and we're in Halacha 57 over here. So I'll just say bracha for coffee I've got over here. Oh, very interesting. I think an Irish cream one. Okay, if anyone's interested to know, we are in a holy bagel restaurant here in the city of Bet Shemesh over here. Very much recommend for everybody. Okay, friends, we're on Halacha Nun Zayin, that's 57. Children playing in sand on Shabbat. Is that going to be loud or not? Katan, המשחק בשבת באפר, הנמצא בתוך ארגז חול, הוא עפה תיכות כל כך שכאשר נוטל מהאפר, חוזה האפר מעליו ומכסה את הגומה. מוטל ייתן לו לשחק שם ולעשות כן. וכל שכן אם נוטל מהאפר ושווה ואינו עושה גומה. אבל אם הוא חופה גומה או בונה באפר, צורות שונות. אם הוא קטן שאינו בר הבנה כלל, אין צריך להפרישו. אבל אם הוא קטן בר הבנה, צריך האב להפרישו. יש אומרים שכל החיוב להפרישו הוא על האב, אבל אין האם חייבת להפריש את בנה העובר על איסורים, אלא אם כן האב נפטר. Okay, what's going on here, friends? It's permissible to allow children to play in a sandbox if the sand is so dry and loose that when a scoopful is removed, the sand falls immediately and fills the hole formed. Not only may he play in the sand, he may even dig up the sand as he pleases. If the sand is firm, however, one may not permit his own child to dig or holes or draw words or pictures in the sand itself. So actually a lot of people love to draw on the sand, or draw pictures, whatever it might be, symbols. In that case it wouldn't be allowed over here. Some rabbis rule that only the father is obligated to do this, but the mother over here is not obligated to prevent her child from performing acts that are forbidden according to halacha unless the father has passed away. So it's in the father's jurisdiction to do this, but the mother, if there's a living husband, which obviously we hope in every single case, then the mother wouldn't have to. If the child is so young that he does not understand halachic concepts with regards to that, with regards to Jewish law, it's not necessary for his father to prevent him from digging or drawing pictures in the sand, because probably there's no mitzvah of chinuch at this of education at that stage in time. We could deduce. Broken piece of utensils, kelim, as they're called respectively in Hebrew. Nun che. What's going on here? כלי שנשבר בשבת, אם אין שברי הכלי ראויים לשום שימוש, אסור לצלצלם בשבת. וכן נעל שנפל ממנה, העקב או הסוליה, ואין אפשרות להשתמש בנעל, אף באופן ארעי, הרי היא מוקצה, ואסור לצלצלה בשבת. וכן, כיסא שנשמטה ממנו רגל, אסור לצלצלו בשבת, אך מותר לסלק את שברי הכלים לצדדם, על ידי מטלטה וכדומה. ואם השבר ראוי להשתמש בו לאיזה תשמיש, מעיקר הדין מותר לצלצל בשבת, שאף שלא יאחד את השברים מערב שבת, בכל מקום לא פקע ממנו, שם כלי שיהיה עליו מבעוד יום. ויש מי שאומר שבזמן הזה שאין דרך להשתמש בשברי כלים, אין לצלצל את השבר בידיים בשבת, ונכון לחוש לדבריו. So friends, what's going on over here? If a utensil breaks on Shabbat, and the broken pieces are not fit for any purpose at this stage in time, they are mukta and they may not be handled on Shabbat, on the Sabbath. Likewise, if the heel or sole fell off a shoe and the shoe is now totally unusable, it's muksa and cannot be handled. The halacha is the same concerning a chair that has lost a leg. In all these cases, it's allowed to, let's say, sweep the broken pieces to the side of the room. Now, obviously, we should see the following halacha concerning a case where the broken piece is present a potential hazard for people. That might be different. If these broken utensil is in the middle of the floor, that could be problematic. I think I related a video in the Daf Yomi in Bavma Kama. I recommend everyone to watch. If the broken utensil is still usable for some purpose, it's technically permissible to handle it on Shabbat then. Even though the owner has no plans before Shabbat to use this utensil for such a purpose, it retains the title of utensil that it had before Shabbat began. There are some poskim that are poskim are ruled that in our times people do not use broken pieces at all, and therefore one may not handle them at all on Shabbat. It is proper to follow this opinion. Okay. We're talking about shards of glass over here now. In Shabbat. Kli zochokit shenafal nishba. מותר לסלק בשבב בידיים את השברים לצדדים או לקחם לפח האשפה כדי שלא יזוקו מהם. Again, naturally you see a broken piece of glasses, you can take it and put it and throw it in the garbage because you don't want to get damage from them naturally. That's something that we know. Okay, אבל כלי שמלאכתו להיתר שנשבע ואינו ראוי לכלום ואינו מזיק אסור לטלטלו לצורך גופו או מקומו אלא יכול לסלקו לצדדים על ידי מטאטא. Okay. If it's broken into unusable pieces and those pieces do not pose any threat to people, then it will be forbidden to move them by hand, even if one wishes to use them for some purpose, or maybe someone needs the space that they occupy. It's permissible to sweep them to the side of the room with a broom, however. So then that will be allowed, because obviously you don't want the house to be messy on Shabbat and everything else. I would assume that will be the reason. Halacha Samach. What if a doorknob becomes loose over here? Yadit delet shiatza mimkoma. Asur lachzira b'Shabbat machashosh li'isu boneh. ולכן אסור לטלטל ידית, זו משום מוקצה. אך ידית העומדת להכניסה ולהוציאה בדלת, בכדי לפתוח ולסגור את הדלת, דינה כדין מפתח. ומותר להשתמש בה בשבת ולטלטלה. What's going on here, friends? If a doorknob comes loose from the door, then it's going to be forbidden to put it back in its place. That will be an act of malacha of boneh. This is building naturally on Shabbat, which is not going to be allowed. Therefore, the doorknob remains muqtzeh and may not be handled. A door handle which is never affixed into the door, but is inserted into the door whenever one wishes to open or lock it, is considered to be a key. As such, one may handle it and use it as one wishes to their luxury at that point in time. Okay. Friends on the YouTube live, please keep comments respectable. Am Yisrael Chai, someone with the name Bart Simpson has put in. Am Yisrael Chai, also to you, my friend. I hope you're enjoying the live video. Okay, friends. Joining call. Okay. I just said a door handle which is never fixed to the door but is inserted into the door. Whenever one wishes to open or lock it, it's considered to be a key. As such, one may handle it and use it as one wishes, naturally. Okay. Drainage hole covers over here. Okay, 61. Friends. כיסוי של צינור ניזוק שבקרקע הבית העוברים בתוכו מי השטיפה וכן כיסוי של בורות שבחצרות הבתים. אם יש לכיסוי ידית מותר להסירה ולפתוח את הבור בשבת ואין לחוש בזה לא לאיסור מקצה אבל לא לאיסור סותר ואף בבורות שאין רגילות לפותחן בכל ימות השנה. אם יש להם ידית מותר לפותחן בשבת ולטלטל את הכיסוי. וכן אם חקוק במכסה צורה מיוחדת כדי לחוזר בה טמא לבית אחיזה ולשערי. ואם אין בכיסוי בית אחיזה אסור לטלטל את הכיסוי בשבת שיש לו דין מוקצה. וכשאין לו בית אחיזה ופותחה בשבת יש בו איסור בונה וסוטה. הוא הדין ביום טוב. So friends, what's going on here? Halacha 61, friends. In most homes in Eretz Israel, in the land of Israel, there are drainage holes naturally in the floors to allow, obviously, access for plumbing reasons and to drain the water after, especially washing the floors. These holes are equipped with tight fitting covers. If these covers have a handle, it's allowed to lift them up and open the holes on Shabbat. This does not naturally infringe on the restrictions of the halacha muktzeh, nor is an act of melachas soter, destroying. Even if the hole is rarely opened, it's allowed to open if the cover has a handle. If the cover is engineered in such a way that enables one to easily unscrew it or pull it to remove it, then in that case it is the same as a cover with a handle, and it may be removed on Shabbat. A flat cover without any handle is muktzeh, since removing such a cover will constitute an act of melacha of soter, destroying, while placing such a cover in its place would constitute an act, naturally, of the melacha of boneh. The cover is muktzeh on Yom Tov as well as Shabbat. The same rules naturally will apply to the cover of a sewer hole in a private yard over there. That's something that we should be aware of over here. Friends, we are on Halacha Samach Bet over here. Any of you who's tuning in now, don't forget to smash the subscribe button and smash the like button. Also makes a huge difference to the videos over here. So anyone that is coming in at the moment. Okay, Halacha Samach Bet over here. הפותח ברשות הרבים ויש חשש סכנה שיפלו לתוכו, מותר לחוס אותו גם אם אין למחסה בית אחיזה, ואם אפשר יכסה רק את חלקו ויניח שם סימנים כדי שאנשים לא ייפלו לתוכו. If there is an open pit in the street and there is a danger that someone might fall into the pit, it's allowed to cover it even if the cover has no handle. Our sages were lenient in this case since it's dangerous to leave the pit uncovered. If possible, one should leave an edge of the pit uncovered to avoid appearing as an act of the melacha boneh. One should also place some marker to serve as a warning for people to be careful not to fall. Naturally, we don't want any injuries and stuff like that. We don't want it straight away. You've got to cover the hazard. Okay, friends. Halacha 63, naturally, Samakim. יש אומרים שמותר לצלצל בשבת גט מפני שאפשר ללמוד ממנו הלכות הגט וסדר כתיבתו, ויש חולקים והעיקר לדידן כסברה האחרונה ובפרט קודם נתינת הגט לאישה, אלא אם כן לשכיב מערה היכא שהגט אינו ברשות הבעל שמותר לצלצל, ולדעת הרמה יש להקל בזה בכל אופן. Friends, what's going on over here? Some poskim, including the Rama, rule that it's permissible to handle a get, a halachic, naturally we call that a halachic divorce document, on Shabbat, since one can learn many halachot by studying its text. Naturally, it's something where you can learn the dinim from. Other poskim, including the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, rule that it is forbidden. And naturally, Sephardic Jews should follow this opinion. This is especially so if the get has not yet been used for the divorce, since no one would use it for any other purpose, even just to stuff up the top of a bottle until it has been used. If the get was written for the sake of someone who is on his deathbed, let's talk about, and who wishes to divorce his wife before his death, since he is childless and wishes to release his wife from any obligation of yibum, levirate marriage, this will be something, the get may be given to her even on Shabbat in those cases over there. It adds a side note, the Saka edition does over here. The Shulchan Aruch in Ibn Ezra 136 ruled that if the get is situated on the husband's property, he can give her the place where the get is sitting and enable her to acquire the get in that manner, thus avoiding the issue of muksa altogether. That is Rabbi Yisrael Bitan actually mentions in this stage in time. Okay, friends, we're on Halacha 64, Samach Dalet, making fantastic progress here. Okay, Halacha Samach Dalet, friends. מותר לטלטל מזוזה בשבת, שהרי יכול ללמוד ממנה כמה דברים. Naturally, it's allowed to handle mezuzah on Shabbat, since one can learn many of the halachot by studying it over here. What about money or checks? That's going to be allowed to move. I think we all know the answer, friends. Okay. מי ששכח מעות או צ'קים בכיסוי בגדיו, ורוצה ללבוש את הבגד בשבת, צריך לנער את המעות מהכיסים. קודם שילבשנו. ואף על פי שיש כיסים שבהם מותר לצאת עם המעות וכתומת, במקום שיש בהם אלו. בכל מקום מאחר שדרכו של אדם להכניס ידיו לכיסוי בגדיו, נכון שבכל סוגי הכיסים יעשה את המעות על ידי ניעול הבגד קודם לבישת הבגד, שהרי אין להכניס ידיו לכיס בגדו, כשיש בו מעות. If someone wishes to wear, let's say, a particular garment on Shabbat, but discovers that money or checks have been forgotten in its pockets, he must shake out those items before wearing it. Technically, it's allowed to wear garments with money in the pockets in certain situations, and even go outside with them if there is an eruv, naturally. But since people are accustomed to inserting their hands into their pockets and handling their contents, the proper procedure is to empty the pockets in all cases before wearing the garments. That's what one should do. One should check before Shabbat actually starts, make sure they're not carrying anything muktzah also. That's very much recommended and advised. Okay. Talking about keys in maftechot, as they call in Hebrew. Maftech delet shel bayit einu muktzeh. ודינו ככלי שמלאכתו לצאת, שמותר לטלטלו אף מן החמה לצאת, אבל אין לטלטלו שלא לצורך כלל, ככל כלי שמלאכתו לצאת. What's going on here, friends? A house key has the status of kli שמלאכתו לצאת, and therefore it is not considered mukta. Even so, it may not be handled when one has no need for it at all, as is naturally the rule with every kli שמלאכתו לצאת. Halacha samach Zayin, 67. Coin pierced and used as an ornament. What's the din within regards to that? Okay. צרור מפתחות או שרשרות שתלו שם מטבע לנון על ידי שנקבו מטבע מותר לטלטלן בשבת, אבל הסימון הנמצא בתוך טבעת שיש בה מפתחות וכדומה, לכתחילה טוב להסירו מערב שבת מהצרור, אך בדיעבד ששכח להסירה מערב שבת רשאי לטלטל את צרור המפתחות גם כשיש בו הסימון. It's allowed to handle the key ring or a necklace that has a pierced coin hanging on it. If someone keeps a token as a decoration on his key, let's say years ago, it was naturally in Eretz Israel, in the land of Israel, people operated payphones with tokens. That was the code of conduct over here, which was special coins with a hole through the center. It's best to remove the token before Shabbat if one plans to carry the key ring on Shabbat naturally. If someone forgot to remove it, let's say, then it's going to be permissible to carry the key ring even with the token. It said in parentheses here, the above paragraph was applicable when such tokens were actually used to operate payphones. Nowadays, naturally, if anyone keeps a phone token on his keyring as an article of, let's say, nostalgia, it does not have a status of being muksat. Or Rabbi Yisrael Bitan once again commented on this. Okay. Have a coin designated as an amulet. What's it in? Okay, סמכת, מטבע שיחדו אותו לקמיה. אף אם לא נבדק, אם מועיל או לא, מותר לטלטלו בשבת, ואין בו איסור מוקצה, ולעניין לצאת עם הקמיה לרשות הרבים דרך מלבוש, כלשהו קמיה מן המומחה, בין התמחי גברה, בין התמחי קמיה, בין קמיה של כתב, בין קמיה של עצבים. מותר אף לחולה שאין בו סכנה, ואפילו אם עדיין לא חזו החולי, אלה שתלו עליו מפני שמתיירא פן יחלה, מותר. So what's going on here in Samachet over here? What is it in? 68 naturally. If a coin has been designated for use as an amulet, it may be handled on Shabbat, even if it has not been proven to be effective, and it's not muktzah, let's say. If it is an authorized amulet because it was designated by someone who has naturally got a proven reputation of providing effective amulets, or because this particular amulet has proven to be effective a number of times, it may even be worn out in the streets in an area not surrounded by an eruv on Shabbat naturally. This is a rule for all amulets, whether consisting of an inscription or of herbs. It may be worn even by someone who is only moderately ill or by someone who is healthy but realizes on the amulet to protect himself from getting infections or different illnesses over here. Guys, anyone tuning in at the moment on the live feed, don't forget to smash the subscribe button and smash the like button. Also makes a huge difference. We're coming near to 3,000 members, friends. Okay, Samach Tet. We're learning laws of the Sabbath, the Jewish Shabbat. כל בעלי חיים, הרי הם מוקצה בשבת, ואסור לטלטלם. ואף כלוב שיש בו עופות המצפצפים, כציפור או תוכי, העשוי לנוי, אסור בטלטול. ואפילו עוף קטן הראוי לנוע לידי תינוק בוכה לשחק בו, אסור לטלטלו. ומכל מקום, אם החמה זורחת עליהם, ויש בזה צער בעלי חיים, מותר לטלטלם למקום מוצל. וכל זה דווקא בבעלי חיים העומדים לנוי. Okay, what's going on here, friends? Halacha 69. Samach. All living animals naturally are muksa on Shabbat and may not be handled. Okay. Nor may one carry about a bird cage containing, let's say, songbirds or the like. It's forbidden to handle even a chick, which one might want to give to a crying, let's say, child, an infant. So you'll play with it. If the sun is shining the bird cage, and on the bird cage, and it causes the birds to suffer, it's naturally called Sa'ar Ba'alei Chayim. Then it's going to be allowed to carry the cage to the shade naturally. Over here, it's going to be allowed. Okay. Okay, now friends, we're on Halacha 70. By the way, in some of these things, there's some footnotes also. I recommend everyone to get the Saka edition of this. You can read actually all the notes, extra notes, which maybe I haven't inserted in the video verbally itself. Okay. Halacha Ayin, Simon 308 over here. Chicks on a basket during twilight. Im alu efrochim al asal, shebayit v'shahu sham kol meshech zman bein hashmashot, o afilu besof zman bein hashmashot, v'yardu mimenu achar kach, asur letaltel et asal, שנעשה בסיס לדבר אסור, ונחשב כמוקצה לכל היום כולו. ואפילו אם לא היו אפרוחים על הסל בזמן בין השמשות, ועלו עליו בשבת, אסור לטלטל את הסל בעודם עליו. והוא הדין לכל בעלי חיים. Let's say baby chicks, they climbed onto a basket and stood there through the period of Ben Hashmashot, twilight, or at the end of that specific period. It is forbidden to handle the basket even after the chicks have climbed off it. The basket has become a basis for items that are mukteh, and therefore it's become mukteh and remains so throughout the Shabbat day, naturally. The rule of the Gemara is that once an item has a status of mukteh during Ben Hashmashot, naturally, it remains mukteh throughout Shabbat itself. If the chicks were not on the basket during Ben Hashmashot, but they climbed onto it during Shabbat, the basket is muksa only while the chicks are on it. These rules apply naturally to all living animals. Okay, friends, we are now on Halacha Ayin Aleph. We're learning the Yalkut Yosef, the laws of the Shabbat. Okay. Halacha Ayin Aleph 71. מותר ליתן אוכל לפני בעל החיים שלו, ואם יש צורך מותר אף להכילם בידיו, גם אם נוגע בהם. ובלבד שלא יטלטלם. ולכן מותר לפתוח את פי הבהמה. אם אינו יכולו לאכול לבדה מחמת חולי. טלטול מקצת מוקצה דומה לטלטול מן הצד ושרינם לצורך השבת. ובעצם הדבר, אם מותר לגדל ציפורי נוי טמאים. ראוי ילקוט יוסף, we see somewhere else. Okay. It's allowed for someone to feed his own animals on Shabbat, and if necessary may feed them by hand and touch them while feeding them, as long as he does not pick them up. Therefore, if an animal is sick, let's say, and does not have the strength to eat, one may open its mouth and feed it. The rule is that moving only part of an item that is muksa is permitted when it is needed on Shabbat. The Maram, the great Bet Yosef, ruled in Yoredaya in 117, in the name of the Orhot Chaim, that it's allowed to raise birds such as parrots as pets, even though they are not kosher, but one may not raise them to sell them for a profit. So that's very interesting over there. Interesting side note, we could say. Okay, fishbowl on Shabbat. Many people have fish bowls for decorations. They would say like it. Let's find out the laws with regards to a fishbowl. Tzintzenet zochochit אקווריום, שיש בה דגי נוי. יש להחמיש שלא לטלטלה בשבת משום מוקצה. ולא אמרינן שכיוון שנועדה לנוי ולשעשוע יהא מותר לטלטלה. ובפרט שיש לחוש פן יוצאים מהמים ויתייחד משום נטילת נשמה. ואף ביום טוב יש להחמיר בטלטלה. A fishbowl should be regarded as a muksa item and it may not be handled on Shabbat naturally. We do not say that it's allowed since its entire purpose is to entertain its owner. Besides, there is the possibility that someone may choose to remove a fish from the bowl and then he would be guilty of killing it on Shabbat. So that's another problem. One should refrain from handling a fish bowl on Yom Tov as well. That's going to be forbidden also. How about removing dead fish from a fish bowl? What's the din? אם דג מת בתוך האקווריום, מותר להוציאו משם בשבת בכפית, כדי שלא לגרום שגם הדגים האחרים ימותו. If one of the fish in an aquarium has died, then it's allowed to remove it on Shabbat with a spoon that the body does not infect the other fish and cause them to die. You've got to be careful naturally. This may be done only if the dead fish is clearly separate from the others, so that there is no issue of malacha borer involved in removing it. So there could be an issue of borer here even, which is a topic in itself. Okay. Ein Dalet. Adding water to a fishbowl. אסור להוסיף בשבת מים לתוך האקווריום, משום שהמים הללו מתערבים עם מי האקווריום המוקצים ונהפכים גם הם להיות מוקצים. ונמצא שהוא מבטל את המים ששפך משימושה. אבל במקום צער בעלי חיים, כשיש חשש שהדגים ימותו, אם לא יוסיפו שמים, מוצע להוסיף מים לאקווריום בשבת ביום טוב. הלכה עין ד'. It's forbidden to add water to an aquarium on Shabbat, since the water of an aquarium is considered mukta. And by adding more water, one causes a new water to become a mukta as well. It's forbidden to cause edible or potable items to become mukta on Shabbat, just as it is forbidden to cause a kli to become mukta on Shabbat also, as we learned previously in Halacha 49. Nevertheless, if the fish are suffering because there is insufficient water in the aquarium and they may die unless water is added, one may add water on Shabbat Yom Tov in those specific cases over there. Removing an insect that is biting one's flesh, what's the din within regards to that? Ein hey. פרעו ששאל בשרו ועוקצו, מותר לסלקו מעל בשרו. משום צעה קיצה לא גזרו חכמים, אבל יעשה כן בזהירות שלא להרגו בידיים. Okay. 75. If someone discovers an insect biting his flesh, he may remove it then on Shabbat. He's going to have that license to remove it. Our sages did not impose the restrictions of muqtah where one suffers physical pain over there. He must take care not to kill the insect purposely when removing it, however, because naturally you can't kill the insect purposely. Okay, friends, we're on lapdogs. What's the din with regards to a lapdog? 76. כלבים קטנים, אף שהם מיוחדים להיש תעשה בהם. אין לצלצלם בשבת ביום טוב. אף אפרוח חי חשיב מוקצה. אף שקטנים משחקים בו. אולם מוצע לגעת בנגיעה בעלמא בעלי חיים בשבת, בלי לצלצלם. כמו שמוצע לגעת בכל מוקצה. עין ו'. Even tiny lapdogs are muktzah on Shabbat and Yom Tov. Likewise, a newly hatched sheikh is a muktzah even though children consider it a plaything. We've got to look back at Halacha 74. The restriction on muktzah means that it's forbidden to pick up the animals, but it's permissible to touch and pet them, just as it's permissible to touch other items on muktzah, as we learned previously in Halacha number 7. How about a seeing eye dog? What's the deal with regards to that? עיוור הרגיל ללכת עם כלב הנחייה, מוצע לו לצאת בשבת עם הכלב ולאחוז בשרשרת הצלויה בצווארו, כיוון שאינו מגבהו. Okay, a blind person may go around on Shabbat with the assistance of his seeing eye dog. He may hold on to the dog's harness since he is not picking up the dog. over there. So that is going to be naturally allowed over there. Moving an animal to protect furnishings. What's it in? Ayin chet. במקום שבעל חי שבבית מקפץ על הכלים וחושש שהכלים ישברו ואולי ינפצם ויגרמו לפציעת הבעל חי, יש להפריחם מעל הכלים ולא לצלצלם בידו. 78. If a household pet is jumping about and is liable to break things in the house, and in doing so it can potentially injure himself also, the dog can. One may only shoo the pet away from the breakable items, but one may not carry the animal. How about cats that refuse to move? What's the din with in regards to ayin tet? אם נזדמן חתול עומד על כיסא בחצר במקום שצריך ליישב שם ואינו הולך על ידי גערה, אסור לצלצלו או להשליכו בידיים, כדין מוקצה מחמת גופו שאסור לצלצלו אפילו לצורך גופו או מקומו. אבל לדחוף את החתול ברגליו או בזרוע, לפי הנראה יש להקל בזה. להביא צלצול כלאחר יד שמוצע אפילו מוקצה מחמת גופו. וכן אם תרנגולות או שאר חייו או צהרים עומדים על השולחן, או במקום שצריך להישב, ואינו הולכים על ידי גערה, מוצע לצלצלם כלאחר יד. Ein tet, this is 79. If someone, let's say, wishes to sit on a chair outside and finds a cat sitting there, and the cat's going to refuse to move away despite rebuking gestures, threatening gestures, let's say, it's nevertheless forbidden to pick it up and move it away. It's not going to be allowed. Since animals are in the category of mukseh, mechemat gufo, it's also forbidden to move them, even if it's letzorach gufo or letzorach mokomo. It's permissible, however, to push a cat away with one's foot or elbow, since that is not the regular manner of the carrying. Likewise, if a chicken or other kosher bird or animal has clambered onto a chair or table and it cannot be coaxed away, one may push it away in an irregular manner in that place, in that point in time. And it's an insect. What's it din with in regards to that? Guys, if you're tuning in, don't forget to smash the like button and the subscribe button also. This is Lilu Nishmat, Rabbi Leo D's wife and his two daughters. Okay. This whole series of the Yalkut Yosef, the Shabbat laws. אם נמצאו נמלים או זבובים על השולחן או על הכיסא, אסור לגרשם ביד ממש, והם בכלל בעלי חיים שאסורים בצלצול, ולא הצילו אלא בפירוש שאל בשרו מוקצה, ולכן יכול לגרשם על ידי ניפוח בפיו, או הפיכתם ביד, ופעמים שיהיה דינם כגרף של ראי. Pay. If there are ants or other insects on the table or on a chair, it's forbidden to remove them by hand. Since insects are considered muksa, as are all living animals, our sages permitted one to remove an insect by hand only if it is biting one's flesh. As explained above in Halacha 75 naturally, one may blow the insects away either with one's breath or by waving one's hand. In certain cases, insects may gain the status of garuf shelrei, a pot full of filth, and in that case it's permissible to handle them by hand in those specific cases over here. Let's continue. Let's try and do a few more halachot in today's session. This section of muksa is actually very, very large, but we're making good progress. Baruch Hashem. Now we're talking about removing insects from food, friends. What's it in? אם נמלים או יתושים נפלו לתוך התבשיל, מותר להוציאם מהתבשיל שכל כי היי גבנה שהוא לצורך אכילה לא גזרו חכמים דין מוקצה, אולם ייזהר להוציאם עם מעט משקה מחשש איסור בורא. What's going on here, friends? If ants or, let's say, glands fall into cooked food, one may remove them. Our sages did not impose the instruction of muksa in a case where it would prevent one from eating one's food. When removing the insects, one must remove some of the food along with it to avoid the prohibition of the melacha of boreh. And actually, boreh is a whole melacha onto itself, which we will touch upon. 82. Walking a dog. Pay bets, naturally. What's it in? Can you walk a dog on Shabbat or not? המגדל כלב בביתו, על פי היתר מחכם. כגון יישוב, ספר, וצריך לצאת עמו לטיול יומי ברחוב. מוצע לאחוז בחבל, הקשור לצוואר הכלב, ולא חשיב צלצול מוקצה, אך לא יגביר בידיים ממש. וברשות הרבים, במקום שאין עירוב, ייזהר שלא תצא הרצועה מתחת ידו טפח, כמבואר בשולחן ערוך. Someone for whom a rabbi ruled that it is permissible to keep a pet dog for security reasons may walk the dog on Shabbat while holding onto its leash. Over there, 56. There's a side note over here. I'll say the side note. This is permitted even in an area where there is no eru, since a leash is attached to the dog for its own protection. One should not allow a lot of slack for the dog, since if the leash droops to within a tefach on the ground, it will naturally then appear that one is carrying the leash, and that is separate from the dog. This is another side note from Rabbi Yisrael Bitan. Over here. Okay. Let's go further. Over here. Okay. In any case, he may not pick up the dog in an area where there is no eru. He must take care that when holding the leash, he does not allow a tefach length, that's 3 inches naturally, of the leash to hang behind one's grip over here. If you would do that, it would be considered as if he's carrying the leash, as we see later on in the Shulchan Aruch in Siman 305. Now friends, we're in Halacha Pei Gimel. Anyone watching live, don't forget to smash the subscribe button over here. Neche המרותק לכיסא גלגלים וקנה קוף מאומן העושה בשבילו את כל צרכיו וברח בשבת או ביום טוב, ויש בזה צער גדול לנכה ואז ספק מכוח נפש מלבד ההפסד הגדול של הדבר, מוצע לתת בפני הקוף סלק מתוק או שאר דברים החביבים עליו כדי שיקרב עליהם, ואז יוכלו להחזירו לבעליו, ואף על פי שאסור לגעת בבעלי חיים מפני שהם מוקצעים בשבת. בכל מקום בחי גבנה יש להקל. Okay, so friends, in 83, a paraplegic once obtained a trained monkey. This is the case scenario, who performed many mundane tasks for him, to the point that the man could not get along with his Simeon assistant. One Shabbat, this is the story over here, the monkey ran away and the man became distraught, claiming that he might die without the monkey's constant presence. Besides that, he had paid a hefty sum for the animal and its training. In such case, then, it's permissible to bait the monkey with sweet vegetables and other things that it enjoys in order to coax it to home. Although it normally is forbidden to handle animals on Shabbat, naturally, in this case it will be mutar, will be permitted. Pei Dalet. יש אומרים שאסור לגדולם לשחק בכדור בשבת או ביום טוב, ואסור לצלצלו אפילו לצורך גופו או מקומו. והדין כן, אף בכדור שהשוע מתחילה לשם משחק. ויש חולקים ומתירים לשחק בו במקומות שיש ניצול חצה מעורבת. ולדידן העיקר כסברה ראשונה, שאסור לגדול לשחק בכדור בשבת. וכן לצלצלו עולם לקטן מותר לשחק בכדור ולצלצלו. מכל מקום, מאחר שיש בדבר מחלוקת לגבי גדול, אם מותר לו לשחק בכדור בשבת או לא, לגבי קטן, אפילו שהגיע לחינוך. מותר לגדול ליתן הכדור לקטן, לשחק בו בשבת, כי שמא מרן לא דיבר על הכדור בזמן הזה, שיש בתי הרושת למשחקים. Okay, friends, what's going on here? Number 84, this Pei Dalet naturally. Some poskim, they rule that it's forbidden for adults to play with a ball on Shabbat or Yom Tov, and that a ball is in the category of mukseh mehemat gufo and cannot be handled naturally, even l'tzorech gufo or l'tzorech mokomo. This applies even if the ball was originally fashioned for play, let's say. However, other Rabbanim ruled that it's allowed to play with the balls naturally on Shabbat on a paved surface in an area enclosed with an area. Naturally, Sephardic Jews follow the first opinion, and therefore adults may not play with the balls on Shabbat or even handle them. However, a child under the age of bar mitzvah, however, can be permitted to play with the balls. In fact, it's even allowed for an adult to hand a ball on Shabbat to a child under bar mitzvah age, so you can play with it, especially since nowadays the balls are produced on the mass in the factories. Naturally, a factory, not like, let's say a few hundred years ago, now they can produce, hundreds of thousands of balls in 1 month or whatever it might be. Okay, how about משחקים של ילדים, children's games, what's the din? שאר משחקים, כגון אבני פלא ולגו, או בובה, או מכוניות קטנות, גם כן אסורים בצלצול לגדול, לדידן שקיבלנו הוראות מרן, בכל מקום מוצר לרשות לבניו הקטנים שלא הגיעו למצוות לשחק בשבת באבני פלא ובלגו שמחברים אותן זו בזו ועושים צורות בניין או מגדל וחוזרים ומפרקים אותן בשבת וכן מותר לגדול לתת לקטן לשחק בצעצועים המיוחדים לקטנים ואין בהם משום מוקצה. אוקיי. וכלי משחק של קטנים שמשמיעים קול בהליכתם אבל אינו קול שיר אפשר להניח לקטן לשחק בו מבלי שגדול יסיע לו משחקו ומותר גם למתוח הקפיץ של משחק ילדים כגון רכבת ואוטו ואין דמותו לשעון שאסור לאורכו שהשעון שפסק מהילוכו בטל מלהיות כלי ואורכו מתקנו מה שאין כן כלי משחק של תינוקות שילדים משחקים בו גם כשאינו ארוך ואמנם משחק הפועל על ידי בטריה אין לגדל טלטולו בשבת. So friends, what's going on here? We're in Halacha 85 over here. According to the Shulchan Aruch, other toys, let's say such as Lego blocks, dolls and toy cars are muktzeh as well. And we must follow this ruling. I'll be the Halacha that we're going through. Even so, it is permissible to allow one's children to play with these toys until they become bar mitzvah, just like in the previous Halacha. They may construct model buildings or towers with the Lego blocks on Shabbat, and they may take them apart as well. And adults may hand any toys to children to play with, and this does not infringe on the restrictions, naturally, of muktzeh. One may even allow his children under bar mitzvah age to play with cars and other toys that, let's say, make an engine-like noise when they are pushed across the floor. As long as the sound it makes is not musical, it's permitted, but an adult may not push a car over here. That's naturally not going to be allowed. Furthermore, it's permissible to wind up the spring of a wind-up car or other toy. This is because the toy can be played with even without winding it up. And therefore, winding it is not considered a stage in making the toy. This in contrast to winding up a watch that has stopped. It's forbidden to wind it up, since a watch is totally useless if it is not running. And winding it is naturally comparable to repairing it a bit. It's definitely forbidden on Shabbat, however, for an adult to handle a toy that runs by battery. That naturally, as we touched upon before, is going to be forbidden. Okay, friends, we are on Halacha Pei Vav over here. Just to remind everyone, in Siman 308 at the moment. This is already the third installment on this Siman that we're doing at the moment. So Bezrat Hashem, we will go from strength to strength. צעצועים שהתבזרו בחדר, מותר לגדולים, לאוספם, לארגז הצעצועים, ואין בזה לא משום מוקצה ולא משום מאמר. So friends, what's going on over here? If toys have been scattered all over the room, it's permissible for adults to gather them and deposit them into a toy chest. This does not infringe on the restriction of muktzeh, nor that of the malacha of ma'amar, making piles. You know, one of the things people don't like so much is when there's balagan, there's a mess inside the room of the house, when there's toys scattered all over. People like a neat environment, a neat space. So that's very important. Okay. Buttons and beads, what's the law? When pay sign. Over here. Okay. 87. כפתור חדש שלא היה בבגד, הרי הוא מוקצה. וכפתור שנפל מהבגד בין נפל בשבת בין נפל קודם השבת, אין לו דין מוקצה. ומותר לצלצלו כדי להצניעו, שכיוון שהיה מחובר במעיל חל עליו צורת כלי, ותו לא פקע מעליו צורת כלי, גם אחר שנפל ממנו, ורוצה להחמיא תבוא על הברכה. וכן שושלת חרוזים שנקראה בשבת והחרוזים נתפזרו בפינות הבית מותר לקטן. Friends, what's going on here? A button that has never been sewn into a garment is muktzeh on Shabbat. If it was once sewn onto a garment but has fallen off it, is not muktzeh. Whether if it was once sewn onto a garment but has fallen off it, it is not muktzeh. Whether it fell off during Shabbat or before Shabbat, once it was part of a garment, the button gains the status of a keli, a utensil, and it retains a status even after it falls off. Therefore, the button may be picked up and put away for safekeeping. Anyone who wishes to refrain from this leniency will receive a bracha from heaven. Let's say if a necklace of beads or pearls breaks and the pieces scatter throughout the room on Shabbat, it is permissible to gather them together and pick them up. But one may not string them onto the necklace on Shabbat. That would be an act of malacha or me'aman, as we learned previously in Siman 335. Okay, let's try and do a few more halachot here in this very long session. Peichet now, garbage cans. What's the din with in regards to that? Mutar litaltel pach hashba b'Shabbat, kedei lishpoch et hashba lachut. ומותר אב להחזיר את הפח לבית אחר שהוריק ממנו את האשפה. פ"ח, 88. It's allowed to carry a garbage can on Shabbat in order to empty it into the dumpster. After emptying it, it's allowed to carry it back into one's home. 89, פ"ט. כלי שהתינוקות עושים בו את צריכיהם. אם יש בו לכלוך מותר לתתלו למקום אחר. אבל אם הכלי עשוי מחרס. What's going on here, friends? 89. A child's potty may be carried on Shabbat if it has been used and needs to be emptied. This is so even if it is an earthenware potty. An empty earthenware potty is muktzeh, but an empty potty made of other materials is not muktzeh naturally. Number 90, in-sink receptacle. מותר לשפוך את האשפה שהצטברה בתוך המשולש שבתוך הכיור ואין בזה לא משום מוקצה ולא משום בורר. If the triangular receptacle commonly set in the corner of the kitchen sink over here has become filled with refuse, it may be emptied out naturally. This does not infringe on the restrictions of muktzah nor of that of the melacha of borer. Sadiq Aleph now, 91. אם יש לכלוך על המסננת שבקיור ומפני כך אין המים זורמים דרך נקב הקיור מותר לנקותה ביד בשבת אף שמטלטל בידו את הלכלוך שהוא מוקצה בשבת וגם אין לחוש בזה משום מתקן מנה. What's going on here, friends? 91. If the cover of the sink drain has become clogged over here with refuse and the water cannot drain through it, it's allowed to clean away the refuse on Shabbat by hand over here, even though the refuse is considered muktzah. This does not infringe upon the restrictions of the malacha of metaken mana, repairing a utensil. Let's try and do 3 more halachot and wrap up for the day. We're in halachat tzadik bet over here. Tzadik bet, in the second edition of the Yalkut Yosef. מותר ליתן בשבת קליפות של אגוזים לתוך המשולש שבקיור, אף כשהוא ריקה, ואין צריך ליתן לתוכו קליפות הראויות למאכל בהמה. שמאכל בכלי זה מיועד לפסולת, לא שייך לעשו בו משום מבטל כלי מהחנה. It is permissible to deposit shells of nuts into the triangle receptacle that sits in the corner of the kitchen sink, even if that receptacle has been empty until this moment. It's not necessary to deposit edible vegetable peels in it first and the nut shells afterwards, as is necessary when putting the shells into a plate. Since this receptacle is made for the purpose of holding refuse, the prohibition of mevatel kli machmot does not apply to it. Okay, tzadik gimel. Using stones. אסור להניח אבן בסמוך לדלת כדי שלא תזוז ענה וענה ותשמיע רעש. אלא אם כן מיוחדה מערב שבת לצורך זה, ודאי ליחדה לשבת אחת. באופן שהדרך להשתמש באבן זו למטרה זו. ואף אם לא יחדה לכך, מותר להזיזה ברגלו. והוא הדין, אם רוצה לפצוע באבן אגוזים בשבת, דסגי בייחוד לשבת אחת. אבל דבר שאין דרכו בכך, כגון שרוצה לפתוח הברז באבן, או להניחה על גבי דפים, שלא יתפזרו ברוח. צריך שיחדו לכך לעולם. ואם ישתמש העם שרוצה לפתוח הברז באבן, או להניחה על גבי דפים, שלא יתפזרו ברוח, צריך שיחדו לכך לעולם. ואם ישתמש העם אחד יכול באבן לצורך פציעת האגוזים וכדומה, שוב אין צריך להחיד אבן זו לצורך פציעת האגוזים. What's going on here, friends? It's forbidden to place a stone in front of a door to prevent it from swinging back and forth and making noise. However, if someone over here is going to designate a particular stone during the weekdays to be used regularly for this purpose, he may use it then on Shabbat also. It's sufficient to designate it on Friday for use for only on Shabbat. Okay, remember it says in parentheses there, it is not necessary to verbalize one's intentions, it's enough to do so in one's mind over here. If one did not designate a stone before Shabbat, one may push one over to the door with one's foot. That will be the code of conduct there. Likewise, if someone wishes to use a stone or crack open nuts on Shabbat, he may do so if he designated it for that purpose before Shabbat began. And designating it for one Shabbat is sufficient. If someone uses a stone to crack nuts during the week, even once, he may use it on Shabbat, even if he did not consciously designate it for this use. The rule is different if one wishes to use a stone in a manner that is unusual. For example, if one wishes to use a stone to turn on a faucet or as a paperweight, it's muksa unless he has designated it before Shabbat to always use it for this purpose. Tzadik Dalet, the last halacha of the day over here. 94, and then we'll call it a day in this session over here. Imlo yechid et ha'even me'erev Shabbat letzorech nirli. לא מועיל יחדיו לשבת עצמה. ויש אומרים שכל שלא דחאו בידיים מועיל יחול גם בשבת עצמה. What's going on here, friends? If someone did not designate the stone before Shabbat for a specific use, designating on Shabbat will not help to remove its status of muktzah. The poskim who disagreed with this ruling and allow it as long as he did perform an action that demonstrates that he does not wish to use a stone on Shabbat. So guys, we're going to leave this here. Next session, we're going to continue on a kalei. Wishing you all a good day and take care.